Hey everybody. Okay, so last chapter we read was chapter 15, and in it we met a new character whose name was Margaret, and she is the daughter of Ada keeps calling her the stone-faced lady, the lady who kind of placed Ada and Jamie with Miss Smith, and Margaret came on a horse and we think got like a concussion, so Ada took her back to her house or whatever, and when Ada got back, Miss Smith, like Ada was super happy, like the day was wonderful. She got to ride a really cool horse. However, the last words were, I was totally unprepared for Miss Smith's rage. So she's not happy, and that's not a word that I would associate with Miss Smith yet, her being like so angry and mad. Okay? So chapter 16. She came at me like a small yellow-haired witch, eyes blazing. Where have you been? She shouted. I've nearly gone to the police. Pony's in the field with a bridle on. You're nowhere. It's almost 4 o'clock. What on earth were you thinking? She came toward me. I ducked my arms around my head. I'm not going to hit you, she roared. Though I feel like it. You have deserved a whipping, making me worry like that. Worry? Worry the way I worried over Jamie in London? I dropped my hands to my lap. I'd sat down on one of the purple chairs and stared at her, perplexed. I know you don't like strangers, she said more quietly. I couldn't imagine a reason you'd go into town. I didn't think you'd go to the airfield, but I went there to ask anyway, and they hadn't seen you. Here, it's the first time I let you alone. I couldn't imagine what could go wrong. I didn't have any idea where you would go, or where you'd be. Real quick, this is probably the first time Ada's realizing that somebody truly cares about her. I thought I was allowed to go outside, I said. My foot hurt worse than it had for days. I hadn't walked so far without my crutches since I'd first come here. I had a scratch down my arm, too, that had left a thin trail of blood. You can't leave without telling me, Miss Smith said. She looked less angry, but still unpredictable. You've got to let me know where you go. How could I have done that? I had to help Margaret, I said. I told her about the horse, how the plane spooked it, how Maggie fell. Miss Smith snorted. Maggie? Who's Maggie? I tried to explain. I told her about the big horse, the house, the stables. The Honorable Margaret Thornton? Miss Smith asked, her eyes widening. Lady Thornton's daughter? It sounds like these people are really important. I shrugged. I suppose she's got a brother called Jonathan. The girl we met with Lady Thornton last week in the market. I nodded. Miss Smith sat down in the other chair. The whole story, she demanded. I told the whole story except for the part where Maggie said bad words. Miss Smith straightened up. Her face looked grim. So, she said, you rode Jonathan Thornton's prize hunter double with Miss Margaret back to her house? Yes, I said. I don't believe you, Miss Smith said. I didn't know what to say. I told lies, of course I did, but I wouldn't lie about this. I'd been helpful. I'd done a good job getting Maggie and the horse home. Grimes had said so. He tipped his cap to me when I got out of the car. I wouldn't know where she lived, I said, if it wasn't true. Oh, I believe you saw the horse, Miss Smith said bitterly. I believe Miss Margaret rode by and you saw them and followed them. Look at the state you're in. Foot bleeding again, everything. I believe you saw Margaret, the horse, in the house. I just don't believe any of the rest of it. My mouth opened then shut. I didn't know what to say. Go to your room, Miss Smith said. Wash yourself off in the bathroom, then go to your room and stay there. I don't want to see you again today. I'll send Jamie up with some supper once he's home. I wonder why she's so mad. Hours later, Jamie came up with a plate for me. How was school? I asked. I hate it, he said, his eyes dark. I'm never going back. Later still, Miss Smith came up with her horrible book. She sat down in the chair with Jamie's side of the bed, and she opened the book without looking at me. I ignored her too. Jamie snuggled himself into the blankets. What happens next? He asked, as though the book was something he cared about. You'll see, Miss Smith said, smiling at him. She opened the book and started to read. Next morning at breakfast, Jamie said again he wasn't going back to school. Of course you are, Miss Smith said. You want to learn to read, then you can read Swiss Family Robinson all by yourself. Jamie looked up at her through her eyelashes. I'd rather you read it to me, he said sweetly. Miss Smith smiled at him, and the thought ran through me that I hated them both. Out in the field that afternoon, I couldn't make Butter go faster than a walk. I tried and tried. I kicked and squeezed my legs. I even snapped a branch of a tree and smacked Butter's side with it. He lurched forward for a few stumbling steps, but dropped back almost immediately to his usual shuffle. It wasn't his fault that he wasn't elegant like Jonathan's horse, but I'm sure he could do better if he tried. Miss Smith opened the back door. Ada, she called. Come here, please. Right, I pretended I hadn't heard and turned Butter so our backside faced her. Ada, she called again. You've got a visitor. Maggie? Grimes? Mom? I slid off Butter, pulled the bridle off his head. I wasn't going to get chewed out for leaving it on him again. Hobbled to my crutches, leaning against the wall, and went to the house as quickly as I could. The visitor was Lady Thornton. She was smiling. Her face looked different when she smiled. She's come to thank you, Miss Smith said in an oddly stiff voice. I stood in the doorway, staring at them, hiding my right foot behind my left. To break the silence, I said, How is she? Maggie, I mean. Lady Thornton, Maggie's mom, patted the empty spot on the sofa beside her. I sat down on it, folded my hands, and slid my right foot behind my left. She is much better today, thank you, Lady Thornton said. She woke up with a headache, but she knows where she is and who she is. She seemed all right when she first came off, I said. She got worse as we went on. Lady Thornton nodded. Head injuries can be like that. She tells me she doesn't remember much of what happened. She remembers you were there, but that's about all. Grimes in the stable told me how you brought her home. I glanced at Miss Smith. Her face still looked stiff, like it was made from cardboard. I said, nodding toward her. She didn't believe me, and I rode that horse and all. Lady Thornton opened a box near her feet. I might not have believed it myself without a witness. That's not an easy horse. He likes me. It slipped out before I thought, but I realized it was true. Jonathan's horse did like me. Now Lady Thornton's face looked strained. Then you're the third person that animal has ever actually liked, after Grimes and my son. She shook her head once sharply, and her face took on its official look, the iron-faced look. I brought over some clothing for you and your brother. Your brother is from an assortment of village families. Yours mostly for my daughter. Things she's outgrown. Here. She laid a pair of yellow pants and a pair of ankle boots across my lap. I stared at them. The pants were made of a thick, tough fabric with legs that ballooned wide at the top, then narrowed and buttoned below the knee. I recognized them. Maggie had worn a pair just like that the other day. For riding, I said. I'd never worn pants before. It would be easier on Butter. Lady Thornton nodded. Yeah, I'm sure Miss Smith's helping you, but I didn't think she'd be able to find you the proper clothes. Miss Smith said very softly, I haven't helped her. She's done it on her own. Lady Thornton looked me up and down. Margaret needs to stay in bed for a few days. She won't be able to ride again before she leaves her school. But if you have any questions about horses, you can always go to our stable and ask Grimes. I know he'll help you. I noticed she wasn't offering to help me herself, I said. Butters, I'm going to go fast. I don't know how to make him. She gave a little laugh and tapped my knee as she stood. Persistence, she said. Ponies are stubborn until they know who's boss. Enjoy the new things. Miss Smith saw her out. When she came back in, she sat down in Lady Thornton's place. I'm sorry, she said, after a moment's pause. I didn't mean to call you a liar. Sure she did, I shrugged. I am one. I know. She began to empty the rest of the box of clothes. Shorts for Jamie, sweaters, shirts. Then she straightened. No, she said. That's wrong. I don't know that. We both know you sometimes tell lies, but I can't say it makes you a liar. Do you understand what I mean? Blouses, sweaters, skirts for me, a red dress with lace in the cuffs, coats for winter. I touched the girl's coat, Maggie's coat. Will I still be here in winter? I don't know, Miss Smith said. Do you understand what I just said? The difference between lying and being a liar? I shrugged. Miss Smith persisted. If you have to tell lies, or you think you have to keep yourself safe, I don't think that makes you a liar. Liars tell lies when they don't need to make themselves look special or important. That's what I thought you were doing yesterday. I was wrong. I didn't want to talk about it. Why is Maggie going away for school? I had asked instead. Why doesn't she go to school where Jamie does? Rich people educate their children at boarding schools, Miss Smith replied. Margaret won't have to leave school at 14 to work like most children do. She'll stay at school until she's 16 or 17. If the war's over by then, she'll probably go to finishing school. She might even go to university, meaning like a college. What kind of school did you go to, I asked. A boarding school, she said. Not because my family was rich. They weren't. I was bright and my father is a clergyman. And some schools offer scholarships to the bright daughters of clergymen. What's a clergyman? You know, a vicar? A man who runs a church? That, kept me from asking more. Churches are where the bells are. Yes, Miss Smith, said Miss Smith. Only they weren't going to be allowed to ring the bells anymore. Only in case of invasion to warn us. I smoothed the pants with my hand. Tomorrow I'd wear them. The left boot, too. Ada, Miss Smith said, I wish I believed you. I darted a quick glance at her and shrugged again. So I have some questions. I find it very interesting that said the lady's name, Lady Thornton, is super rich. And this horse is like a prize-winning horse that Ada had ridden. And Ada's one of the only people it's ever liked. So I'm wondering, is she going to ride it again? Is she going to go talk to Mr. Grimes and learn some stuff? I don't know. Is she going to have to go back with her mom? I hope not. Until next week. Bye, guys.